Welcome to this week's edition of the Dairy and Food Bulletin, dated 31st August. Here comes the pulse point question. Is FSSAI overlooking milk salience in its HFSS and FOPL star rating algorithm? The Indian Dairy Association organized a webinar on 29th August to discuss the implications of FOPL health star rating proposed by FSSAI for dairy products. Eminent panelists including Dr. R.S. Sodhi, Dr. J.B. Prajapati, Mr. Kalpam Chauhan from Mother Dairy, Mr. Pradeep Das from Heritage Foods, and Mr. Mohan from Dodla Dairy shared their prolific insights through thought-provoking presentations. The complete webinar is available at the link provided in the description, while key excerpts and takeaways have been compiled below for everyone's learning. In the beginning, let us understand what is HFSS and how does it treat healthy foods like milk and curd.
HFSS. One is FOPNL, simplified representation. Second is HFSS, high in food, sugar and salt. So how a product will be qualified or will be termed as HFSS? So there are three criteria. If a product is getting more than or equal to 10% of total energy from its total sugar. Second, it similar 10% of total energy from its saturated fat. Or third is sodium not more than or equal to 1 milligram per 1 kilocalorie. If we see the implication, this definition as such implements. But if we see practically, this definition scientifically is not correct. It has very challenge. For example, a toned milk, which is a kind of a, you can say, like natural milk, nothing is added into it. If we see the calorie out of total sugar, out of 58 is the total calorie, and the calorie out of total sugar is 33%. So nothing is added into the toned milk. It is a balanced kind of a milk, 3% of fat. Nothing is added into it. It is drawn as such from the udder, make it pasteurization and served to the consumer. Itself, this milk is HFSS. Similarly, we see the energy from the saturated fat. It is more than 10%, 31%. Take another example like dahi. Nothing added into it, neither fat, neither sugar, nothing. So natural dahi is also saturated, HFSS. So we can see the practical implications. Scientifically, this definition of HFSS is having a lot of challenge and needs to be reviewed by the.
Secondly, let us look at INR or Indian Nutrition Rating and how does it rate various food categories after making calculations through the given algorithm.
Which we need to communicate and we need to highlight to the authority. Secondly, if we see at a glance, this is the star rating of multiple foods. For example, if dairy, if I see that most nutritious and healthy milk like cow, it's even not getting 5-star rating, it's getting only 3.5. Okay, paneer is getting 2.5. If we see processed cheese 0.5, however, cheese analog is getting 1. Right, almond milk 4.5, flavored milk 3. So this totally, somewhere the concept of a food matrix, wherein the positive nutrients into a particular food, rather than identifying a food just basis of some negative nutrient, that is saturated fat into it.
And lastly, let us look at how is food matrix salience is just ignored in star rating system. Let us look in this interesting example of paneer versus tofu.
Example I would like to take here. This is about the paneer versus tofu. So going with the same score, the paneer, the milk paneer, which is having around 18 to 20% of the protein, will get something around 2.5 to 3 star. Whereas tofu, which is plant-based protein, soya protein, will get something around 5 star. But actually, what is the key things that are getting missed is, if I see This is just a comparison on the superiority of the milk protein, which is actually getting ignored. The completeness of protein and its health benefits are very, very clearly missing in this kind of calculations which are being considered. It just considers the content of protein, not the quality of the protein. So if you see, milk is one protein which has all the essential amino acids, 9 amino acids which are there, and that too they are almost in a higher number when it is compared with other plant-based proteins. So on any given day, the milk protein superiority is much higher compared to what the other plant-based proteins are giving to a consumer. But at the end of the day, when the rating says 5 and the milk paneer gets a rating of 2.5, for an average buyer who doesn't have time, he will never get visibility of all these micro details and micronutrients, and they will end up making the wrong choices. So similarly,
as per 2025 Brand Finance Food and Beverage Report, Yili remains the world's most valuable dairy brand with a value of $11.2 billion, the only brand to retain its position from last year. The Dairy Top 10 2025 ranking saw several shifts, particularly among Asian brands, most of which recorded declines. Two exceptions stood out. India's Amul, the world's largest dairy cooperative, increased its brand value by 24% to $4.1 billion, while Japan's Yakult rose 3% to $1.7 billion. Amul also became the second strongest brand in the ranking with a brand strength index or BSI score of 91.2 out of 100, backed by strong price acceptance, brand loyalty, and consumer trust in India. Amul's entry into the North American market marks a strategic step in its global expansion. In a seminal article, Harish Damodaran tells that the competitiveness of India's dairy sector is under global scrutiny, especially with US pressure to open markets. In crops like maize, US farmers are more price competitive. At $4.5 per bushel or 25.4 kg, they receive about 15.4 rupees per kg, versus in India, maize is available at around 22 to 24 per kg. Aided by higher yields, 11 tons per hectare versus India's 3.5. But milk tells a different story. US Federal Milk Marketing Orders prices in July 2025 average rupees 36.7 per litre, close to Maharashtra's 34 per litre. In Europe, raw milk fetched 55.6 per litre, while in New Zealand, adjusted for fat SNF, it was just under 35 rupees per litre. Indian farmers thus are globally competitive despite low yields, 1.64 tons per cow versus 10.97 in the US per lactation. Low labor costs rather than automation underpin this advantage. India's protein momentum is reshaping dairy and fast food. With 73% of the 1.4 billion population protein deficient, especially in rural areas. The high protein dairy market grew 9.4% in 2024 to $1.5 billion and is forecast to expand another 12% in 2025. Mother Dairy at Rs 17,500 crore turnover is targeting 20,000 crores in FY26 through protein-rich products like Pro Milk with 30% more protein and upcoming Greek yogurt and paneer. Amul is leveraging surplus whey while urban demand fuels protein-enriched buttermilk, ice cream, breads, and snacks. The dairy protein market at $627 million in 2024 is projected at $1.13 billion by 2033 at 6.3% CAGR. This shift signals a move from supplements to embedded nutrition with affordability and scale key to impact. India's chocolate market valued at 20,000 crore or $2.9 billion in 2024 is expanding at 12 to 14% CAGR, nearly doubling to $5.5 billion by 2033. In contrast, traditional mithai grows at just 4 to 5% CAGR. Dairy-based chocolates led by Mondelez, Amul, Nestle, ITC and Priya Gold are reshaping festive consumption, often outpacing mithai during Diwali and Rakhi. Milk chocolate dominates for its creamy taste and affordability, while premium and healthier dark variants expand urban demand. Rural traction is rising too, with flavored milk chocolate sales up 12% in 2024. Consumers increasingly prefer chocolates for hygiene, shelf life, and gifting appeal, tilting festival towards modern indulgence. This shift marks a structural challenge to mithai as dairy-based chocolates evolve into India's new festive sweet story. Global butter prices are falling sharply as milk output rises in the US, EU, and New Zealand. France up by 3.9%, Germany 2.6%, and the US 4%, driving EU butter to Euro 6600 to 6685 per metric ton, with risk of slipping below Euro 6000 if demand stays weak. Warehouses across Europe are releasing stocks, echoing 2022's price crash. India, however, faces the opposite scenario, an acute butter shortage during the festival season, with cooperatives and private dairies struggling to meet ghee and butter demand. This domestic tightness has kept Indian prices elevated even as global prices slide. The divergence creates a strategic dilemma. India, currently among the most competitive butter suppliers, may find exports constrained by limited availability, despite favorable global positioning. While this scarcity supports strong domestic realization, it could restrict export volumes at a time when global buyers seek cheaper alternatives, potentially weakening India's growing foothold in international dairy trade. This week we have an interesting video from China. This Inner Mongolia region in North China invites everyone to try their tasty dairy snacks. Recently, the region has allocated 230 million yuan to support the traditional dairy industry. Can we think similarly for our Mathura ka peda, Bikaneri rasgulla, Kashi's doodh ka tar, or Mysore pak?